Welcome to the Washington Defender Grassroots. I'm your host, Pastor Brian Noble, CEO of Family Policy Institute of Washington, and we have another meet and greet the candidate. And so I'm going to bring Laura on in just a moment. But just our disclaimer right off the bat, nothing in this video is an endorsement of the candidate, nor the candidate's endorsement of FPIW or FPIW Action. We simply want you to meet and greet the candidate. So this is a public service so that you can get to know those who are running for office. So Laura, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you. Why don't we just start with general, what are you running for, who you are, just a general opening.
Fabulous. Thank you. Yes, my name is Laura Christensen Colberg. That'll be the longest name on your ballot. I'm running for Washington State Supreme Court Position 1.
Awesome. Now, tell us a little bit about your background, like where you are from, in Washington State, that kind of thing.
Thank you. So I grew up in Wenatchee, Washington, over in North Central Washington. From there, I went to Seattle Pacific University for my undergrad, and then I went on to the University of Washington for my law school degree. And then shortly after that, I started working in a small family law practice in the Northgate area. I currently live in Lake Forest Park with my husband and occasionally one of my 2 adult sons. I have one son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter down in Corvallis, Oregon, and my youngest just graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in history. So he's in transition, figuring out his next chapter, but helping with the campaign is a nice little gap fill for both of them.
That's great. How's your grandchild?
She is 21 months.
Oh, I have 3
in the absolute cute phase. Oh,
Yeah.
She's always been in the cute phase, but it's just the switch I didn't know I had, just to be a grandma and all things wonderful with her.
That's awesome. Yeah, being a grandparent's the best thing in the world, I think so. All right, so we've learned a little bit about your family. Tell us why you're running for the Supreme Court Position 1.
Yeah, well, like many citizens in Washington, I wasn't aware until I think it was March or April this year that there are 5 Supreme Court positions on the ballot. And I don't know about you, but I often have opened the ballot and there's only one name, and
Right.
it's usually the incumbent. And I thought, well, at the very least, let's make sure that each and every one of these positions gives the voters of Washington a choice rather than having any blank spots on your ballot. So that got me thinking about what was required to be a Washington State Supreme Court justice. The only requirement is that you be an attorney, a member of the bar, and I've been doing that for 30 years. So then looking at position 1, one is an incumbent appointed by Governor Ferguson since January, and the other is a tax attorney, and I'm the only one that comes with any judicial experience in this race. So I thought that was something that nudged me further to say, well, I have 30 years of background as a family law attorney, but also for 18 years, I've served as a pro tem court commissioner, which is a decision-making role in the court system. And so that's not nothing and more than my opponents. And so I thought, well, that gives the voters a viable choice. Someone who's in the role because one person chose them, someone who has some experience, and someone who comes from a different background. Let's let the people choose.
So for those of us who, are in the legal realm, what's a pro tem? Unpack that, like in
what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? That sounds really fancy, but let's
fabulous. Yeah. So if you think of the courthouse with judges, and if you think of an analogy to a hospital, all of the judges are all the doctors, and the court commissioners are the ones that are in the ER doing triage. Okay. So the judges are elected, the court commissioners are hired by the judges. And so we do the judicial role that either they don't want to do or they just don't have time to do. So in my situation, family law motions, temporary orders, emergency orders, restraining orders, all the things that need attention within, either 24 hours to 2 weeks or so, we need to make those kinds of decisions quickly. The pro tem part of that is Latin for the time being. It's the temp for the time. So I'm not one of the full-time commissioners. I fill in on a part-time basis. So that means like you have a substitute teacher in a classroom. When the regular court commissioners are away or unavailability, they call in a list of pro tems. And I had to apply for that. I have to reapply every year. I get approved by the judges to do this work every year. And then I am usually in the courtroom at least monthly, if not 2 to 3 times a month, maybe 5 times a month, depending on the demand. making those decisions and doing everything a regular court commissioner does.
Excellent. Well, at Family Policy Institute, we obviously love family. We want family to thrive.
Mhm.
And we also love values, like core values of what you have. So either talking about how as a Supreme Court, family values and or just personal values, we'd love to hear uh, what you stand on.
What I stand on? Well, I think the family is the most important unit of society. Healthy families make healthy communities, make healthy states and societies. Unfortunately, in my line of work, I've seen so many layers of how the family is broken from outside forces, from inside forces, from substance and the like. Again, that's the problem side. Me personally, I'm uh, grateful. I've been married for 31 years to my husband. We met in a church group while I was in law school, and then got married just before I graduated from law school. We raised our two boys in a one-income household so that we could have a parent at home with our children. Made the decision I would be the career person, if you will. My husband was home, although he has some history in education and had been teaching
Mhm.
before he retired in order to be that stay-at-home parent for us. We homeschooled our boys. It's important for us to make sure that we could be involved in their education. We did send each of them to public school for high school and then on to their college years. And we just delight in the people they are and love any of the time that we can spend with them. So I grew up in more of a traditional household also with a working father. My mom also helped him in his office. He had a sole chiropractic office down over in
Mm.
Wenatchee. And so I can't say we were a perfect family. We sometimes put the fun in dysfunction, but we did our best and we are still, speaking to one another, most of us, and, working through things as imperfect human beings, but still, if one is threatened, the tribe pulls together, and we are siblings and
Good.
cousins and families that respect one another.
Yeah, I've done a lot of family mediations, uh,
Mm.
and I can tell you, including my own, none of us are perfect, right? We're all in process and at different parts of the stage of process, so it's good. When we look at the Constitution, since you're running for
Mhm.
Supreme Court, what's your view of the Constitution?
Well, I think the Constitution, especially the Washington State Constitution, since it was drafted 100 years after our U.S. Constitution, there are actually some added protections that we have in Washington State. And so it is the document that is there to preserve the rights of the individual, pushing back against the rights or the authority of the state, whether that's legislative or executive. It is the document that we need to keep intact and apply as faithfully as we can against any legislation or the enactment of laws or prosecution that steps over any of those rights. And so that is the prime document. Certainly the supreme law of the land as the land is the US Constitution, but in Washington state we have provisions that are even more protective.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, Laura's not just saying the federal constitution takes precedence. The Washington State Constitution actually says the federal Constitution takes precedence. So
Yes,
our own
it is.
Constitution is it's right in there. But anyways, that's good. I appreciate you sharing that. How would you're running for office? How would people get a hold of you, or what can they do to assist you?
Oh, absolutely. So the website that you posted, Laura for the number four, position1.com. My last name can be a mouthful for everyone. And to try to spell either or both of those names is a challenge. So Laura for position one will give you more of my background and will give you an email address or a link if you want to get connected or help in any way. That's the best resource. If you want to email me directly, it's laura@lauraforposition1.com. And to the extent that I am able to answer emails within the restrictions that we have as judicial candidates, I will certainly reply and let you know more about me if you have specific questions.
So let's just address that real quick. So you're not able to comment on
Mm.
anything that you may, and you unpack it for. I probably am saying it wrong, but that you may relate.
Certainly. No, and these are things that aren't known or obvious to the
Right.
public until you get the non-answers and you're like, what? You're dodging the question. Any judge or judicial candidate is bound by what's called the Code of Judicial Ethics, and that's just a special rule for judges.
Mhm.
And part of that is it says what we can and cannot say, even if we're running for office or in a judicial race. And one of those things is we can't offer opinions or promises that relate to any issues or cases that could come before us in the Supreme Court. Because if we are going to be asked to decide something, we can't have committed to, oh, I would do this if I blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That just undermines the neutrality and the impartiality we have. And if we make those promises, we have to essentially recuse ourselves from the case and not hear it because we've already made up our minds. If you want to judge, you don't want to know what a judge is going to say or do before they even read the case. And so
Right.
we have to keep that neutrality.
Yeah. So I'm just saying this hopefully to your benefit, calling or emailing her and asking her, what's your position on the millionaire's tax? What's
That
your
won't
position
help.
on all this kind of stuff? Those are things that will probably be before the courts or maybe before the courts. And so she's not being
Mhm.
rude if she doesn't answer. She's bound by the ethical how did you say that? The ethics
The Code of Judicial Ethics.
Code of Judicial Ethics. She's bound by that. Any closing remarks that you'd like to make today or any final statements? And then we'll
Well, I certainly appreciate, again, the opportunity. And I want the voters of Washington to know that the impartiality and the nonpartisan nature of the judiciary is absolutely critical in this race. So look at the background of all of the candidates and make sure that you understand that if there is not a nonpartisan judiciary, we don't have any of the checks and balances within our system of government. We have the legislative and the executive. A judicial officer is not supposed to be making the law or changing the law or coming at decisions to make a policy. That's for your legislature. And so you need to vote those people in who are the lawmakers, but make sure that your judicial candidates are people that are dedicated to doing the right thing without worrying about what anybody thinks, a
Mhm.
party or an entity or someone who's endorsed them or someone who is contributing money to them. You need to do the research, and all of the I think websites have enough information to give you enough to help you make your choice, how we say.
Yeah.
And I
And
encourage you to look at that.
I would encourage people, I think undervoting on the Supreme
Mhm,
Court level is so predominant. People are like, I don't know them. And
mhm,
I know we're busy. And I would say check with a trusted friend, do your own research, take the
mhm.
time because it really is that check and balance. And just
Yeah.
one more time, really quick, this is how you get a hold of Laura for position1.com. If you want to check out her website. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and letting our audience get to know you a little bit more. And we wish you Godspeed in this.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in luck, but we wish you that God's will would be done over these positions. So
We are all none of us are in as much control as we think we are in.
that's right.
If you haven't campaigned for office, you don't know that quite as acutely as I do in the
Yeah,
last few weeks. But thank you
absolutely.
for your time. It's very nice to meet you, Brian.
Nice to meet you too.
You love our beautiful state, but does fighting for issues that most affect families ever feel like you're climbing alone? It can feel like an uphill climb in a hostile environment that champions causes detrimental to Washington families. Again and again, the summit feels out of reach, but you don't have to climb alone. With like-minded people fighting for Washington families by your side, the journey becomes not just possible, but powerful. The Defender app, brought to you by the Family Policy Institute of Washington, connects you with your team for the climb ahead. Connect with conservatives who care about issues affecting families in your specific county and across our state in order to make our voices be heard locally and in Olympia. Simply click Learn to stay informed about the latest news affecting families. With one click, press Huddle to team up with other conservative minds in your specific county who care about how these issues affect you in your unique community. Then simply press Activate to get involved and to make your voice heard on legislation that matters in Olympia. With the Washington Defender app, you won't face the fight alone. Together, we can make a difference for families in Washington. Download the Washington Defender app today, a simple way to let your voice be heard.